The bus was crowded that Tuesday afternoon, the kind of pack that made people sigh before they even stepped on. The sun was setting low, casting long shadows across the pavement, and the air was heavy with the smell of city life, gasoline, fast food, and a hint of something sweet from a nearby bakery. Music played low through someone's headphones, just a faint beat trying to survive over the chatter, the squeak of tires, and the sharp bark of a child tired of standing. Somewhere in that mix sat Jamal. Jamal was 17, tall for his age, and quiet in a way that made people notice him without him ever having to say much. He kept his head low, hoodie up, backpack tight on his lap, trying to make himself smaller than he was. It had been a long day. School had drained him as usual. Teachers giving sideways looks when he answered too quickly. Classmates expecting him to be funny when he just wanted to think. He was just trying to get home. Across the aisle, people shifted, trying to make room that didn't exist. Jamal watched, the scene with tired eyes, and that's when he saw her. She got on with slow, careful steps, one hand gripping the pole, the other resting gently on the round curve of her belly. She looked exhausted, not just physically tired. There was something in her eyes that made Jamal sit up a little straighter. He'd seen that kind of tired before. His mom had worn it like a second skin when she used to work double shifts, coming home barely able to stand, but always with a smile for him. Jamal didn't think twice. He stood up and nodded toward the seat. The woman looked surprised, as if she hadn't expected anyone to move, let alone a teen she hadn't even made eye contact with. She smiled, murmured a soft thank you, and slowly lowered herself into the seat he'd just given up. People noticed. Not in a big way. A couple of nods, a few raised brows. The bus rolled on like nothing had happened. Jamal grabbed a pole and held on, eyes back out the window, lost in the blur of city lights and thoughts too deep for words. He didn't see it coming, the moment that would flip his world in a way he could have never imagined. As the bus neared his stop, the woman tapped his hand lightly. He turned, surprised. She didn't say anything at first. Just smiled again, this time a little softer, a little heavier, and handed him a folded piece of paper. He blinked, confused, but took it. "You're going to want to read that," she said, her voice calm but carrying something more. Something he didn't understand yet, and just like that, the bus doors hissed open and she was gone. Jamal stepped off a stop early without realizing, the note still in his hand, warm from her touch. He stood on the sidewalk as people walked past. Cars, honking in the distance, a cool breeze tugging at the corner of his hoodie. Something about the weight of the paper felt different, like whatever was written inside was more than just a thank you. He unfolded it slowly. His eyes scanned the first few lines and suddenly his chest tightened. His breath caught. The words hit deeper than anything he'd ever read. It wasn't just a note. It was something else entirely. But what exactly was in that note? That part? Well, that's where everything changes. Jamal stood there for a long moment, staring at the letter like it might vanish if he blinked. The cars kept rushing by. People moved around him. The world just kept spinning. But he felt frozen. All that weight in a single piece of folded paper. His fingers trembled a little, either from the chill in the air or the shock of what he'd just read. He couldn't tell anymore. The handwriting was neat, kind of careful, like whoever wrote it had taken their time. But it wasn't what the handwriting looked like that got him. It was what it said. There were words in there that didn't make sense at first, names he didn't recognize, and something about a decision that had been made years ago. There was also a phone number at the bottom, no name, just a note that said, "If you want the truth, call." He folded it back up slowly, as if doing it too fast might somehow erase what he'd read. His brain was trying to catch up with his heart, which was already racing. He stuffed the note into the front pocket of his hoodie and started walking toward home, but his feet felt like they were moving without him. By the time he made it through the front door, his mom was already in the kitchen, frying something that smelled like onions and garlic. She had her hair wrapped up, a soft gospel track playing low from the radio on the counter, and a look of tired peace on her face. The kind of look that said, Today was hard, but I made it. Hey, baby, she said without turning around. You get out early? Nah, Jamal replied, trying to sound normal. Just walked faster. She chuckled softly, the kind of sound that made everything feel safe again, even if only for a second. He stood there watching her for a moment longer than usual. Something about the note had cracked something open inside him. Some kind of curiosity or confusion he didn't know how to name yet. But now wasn't the time to bring it up, not with the smell of dinner in the air and the tired lines around his mom's eyes. In his room, he pulled the letter out again. He sat on the edge of his bed, the same bed he'd had since he was 10. The same posters still on the wall, sneakers lined up by the door in the same order. But everything felt different now, like the world outside this room had tilted slightly. The words in the note repeated in his head, almost like they were stuck. There. You did something today that reminded me of someone I lost a long time ago. I've been searching for a way to say thank you, and I think this might be it. I need you to know something. Something that could change how you see yourself and the people around you. I can't put it all here, not yet. But if you want to, no more call me. It didn't say who the woman was, didn't give any hints other than the fact that she seemed to know something about him. Something personal, something big. He didn't call the number. Not yet. The next day at school, Jamal was distracted. His friend Marcus kept cracking jokes about their English teacher's weird shoes, and usually, Jamal would have been the first to fire back with something funny. But today he just wasn't there. Not really. His body was in the seat, sure, but his mind was stuck on the woman from the bus and the note, and that strange feeling in his chest that hadn't gone away since. In the middle of biology class, while Mr. Parker droned on about cell division, Jamal stared at the number scribbled in the corner of his notebook. He'd written it down from memory that morning. He was sure he had it right. Something about those 10 digits. It felt like they had their own kind of energy. Like they meant more than just a phone call. After school, instead of going straight home, Jamal took the long way. He walked past the park, the corner store, even past the library his mom used to take him to when he was little. He ended up sitting on a bench near the edge of the neighborhood, just watching people go by. Moms with strollers, kids chasing each other on bikes, a man selling roasted peanuts from a cart. Life doing what life does. Normal stuff. But nothing about Jamal felt normal. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from Marcus. Yo, you good? You've been quiet all day, Jamal typed back. Just thinking. Marcus replied with a thumbs up and a don't think too hard, followed by a laughing emoji. Jamal smiled, but it faded fast. He pulled the note back out and read it again for the 5th or 6th time. Still no name, still no clear explanation, just that offer. If you want the truth, call. He was starting to wonder if maybe he didn't want to know. What if the truth wasn't something he was ready for? What if it had something to do with his past, his dad maybe? Someone he'd never met, never asked about, because the silence around that topic in their house was thick enough to drown in. When Jamal finally got home, he sat at the edge of his bed again, phone in hand, thumb hovering over the keypad. He didn't press it. Instead, he slipped the phone back in his pocket and pulled out a notebook. He started writing everything he could remember about the woman. Her voice, her face, the way she moved, the tired kindness in her smile. It was weird, how clear it was in his mind. He'd only seen her for a few minutes, but it felt like her presence had settled somewhere deep. He didn't hear his mom knock. She walked in holding a laundry basket and paused when she saw him scribbling. You doing homework? She asked. He nodded quickly. Yeah, just a writing assignment. She gave him a small smile, then looked at him a little longer than usual. You okay? You've been kinda quiet. Yeah, he said again, this time softer. Just, thinking about stuff. She nodded slowly. All right. You know you can talk to me, right? I know. And she left it at that because that's how it worked between them sometimes. Quiet understandings, spaces left open just in case. That night, Jamal lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He thought about the woman's face again. Not just how she looked, but what she knew. She'd seen something in him, enough to trust him with a note that hinted at something deep, something hidden, and the way she looked at him when she handed it over. It hadn't been random. It was like she knew him, or knew of him, but how? That question haunted him. He reached for his phone. His fingers hovered over the number again. But just before he could hit call, his phone lit up. Unknown number. He stared at it, heart pounding, hand frozen. The call was coming to him. Jamal's thumb hovered over the screen, heart thumping so loud it felt like it filled the room. The caller ID still said unknown. No name, no location. Just a plain ringtone echoing into the silence of his bedroom. For a second he thought maybe he was imagining it. Maybe he was so deep in this whole mystery that he was dreaming it up, but the screen kept glowing, vibrating softly in his hand. He didn't answer. Not yet. His instincts told him to wait, to think. But then the call ended, and the room felt colder without it. He stared at the screen as if it might ring again. It didn't. The next morning, Jamal moved slower than usual. He barely touched his cereal, just stirred it around with the spoon until it got soggy. His mom noticed, but didn't push. She just packed his lunch like always, kissed his forehead, and told him to be safe. That meant more than usual today. Safe didn't just mean from the world outside. It meant safe from the storm he could feel building inside him. At school, Jamal kept looking over his shoulder, half expecting the woman to appear in the hallway or the cafeteria. But she didn't. No one new showed up. No teachers acted weird. The world went on as normal. But Jamal didn't feel normal anymore. During lunch, he sat under the tree behind the gym, the one spot nobody bothered with, unless they were skipping class or trying to get a few minutes alone. That's when he saw her again. Not the woman, but someone who looked like her. A younger version, maybe. A girl, probably a year older than him, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans, her hair pulled back into a low ponytail. She walked past him without looking, but something about the curve of her jaw, the shape of her eyes, it stopped him cold. He stood up before he could even think about it. "Hey, wait!" She turned around, eyebrows raised. "You talking to—" Jamal hesitated. He felt ridiculous. "Sorry, I just thought—" "Never mind." She stared at him for a moment, then smiled a little. "You okay?" "I think so," he said, and it surprised him how honest that sounded. She gave a small nod and walked off, disappearing around the corner of the building. Jamal stood there for a few seconds, wondering what just happened, and whether it meant anything at all. Maybe he was seeing connections that weren't there, or maybe they were just starting to show themselves. That night, Jamal couldn't sleep. The letter was still tucked into the back of his notebook, and the number still memorized in the cracks of his brain. He finally got up and turned on the lamp beside his bed. Then he picked up his phone and started to type the number in again. But this time he didn't plan to call. Instead, he opened a text and typed, "Who are you?" He didn't expect a reply. He set the phone down and lay back. But less than a minute later, his screen lit up. "I'm someone who knows the truth. And I think you're ready for it." He stared at the words, reading them over and over again. The truth. That word again. Big, heavy, and vague. The next message came quickly after. "Meet me at Lincoln Park. Tomorrow, 4 p.m. By the old fountain. Jamal didn't reply. He just locked the phone and sat in silence, trying to convince himself this wasn't a mistake. The next day dragged on. Every second in class felt like 10. When the final bell rang, Jamal walked straight to the park without going home first. Lincoln Park wasn't far, but it felt like another world. It was quieter than the other city parks, kind of forgotten in a way. The fountain they mentioned hadn't worked in years, and weeds had started to take over the stone edges. When he got there, nobody was waiting. He sat on the edge of the fountain, the wind blowing gently through the trees, and he waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. He started to think maybe it was a joke or a test or something else entirely. Then he saw someone walking toward him. It wasn't the woman from the bus. It wasn't the girl from school. It was a man, mid-30s, maybe, tall, pale skin. Wore a clean but old-looking coat and walked like he didn't want to be seen even though he wasn't hiding. He stopped a few feet from Jamal and gave a small nod. "You're Jamal," the man said. Jamal stood cautious. "Yeah. Who are you?" The man glanced around like he wanted to be sure no one was watching. "I work with her, the woman you gave your seat to. She couldn't come herself. Too risky." "Risky," Jamal repeated. "What is this?" The man stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You're part of something bigger than you think. This isn't just about kindness, it's about blood, about history." Jamal's mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" "She knew your father. That hit harder than anything else so far." Jamal took a step back. "I don't know my father." "I know," the man said. "That's why we're here." Jamal's head was spinning. "So what, she just shows up, hands me a note, and now random people are coming out of nowhere saying they know my dad? What is this?" The man didn't answer right away. He pulled a small envelope from his coat and handed it to Jamal. "She wanted you to have this, but once you open it, everything changes." Jamal didn't take it at first. His hands stayed at his sides. Then slowly, like the weight of the moment pushed him forward, he reached out and took the envelope. The man nodded again, like his job was done. "Be careful who you trust." And just like that, he turned and walked away. Jamal stood there with the envelope in his hand. His palms were sweating. His chest felt tight. He sat back down and turned it over. His name was written on the front. Just Jamal. He didn't open it, not yet. But deep down, he knew. Once he did, there'd be no going back.